And what I found was right there in the first chapter, and God created man in his own image, male and female, God created them. And I realized that, well, of course, if God created man in his own image, then that means God created woman in her own image. So God contains both the masculine and the feminine. And I was like, yep, I believe that. I mean, I came to this conclusion, right? And then when it goes on to talk about, do not eat of the tree of knowledge, or ye shall become like us, I was like, okay, what godly parent would plant this delicious, yummy tree with the delicious fruit right in the middle of his children's existence and then say, but don't eat of it, because if you do, you know what? It doesn't say that they'll be punished. It says, ye will become like us. So that led me to believe this God that is speaking, these are gods. These are deities. Why would... This is multiple gods, right? They will become like us. There wasn't a royal we back then. So, and then I decided this is a poseur God. This God in Genesis, this God in the Old Testament that is a jealous, angry, wrathful God is a fake. This God is a lesser deity who's positioning itself as God, but it's not. Because in my heart of hearts, I knew that God would never curse his children, ravage his children, condemn them to hell, require blood sacrifice, require animal sacrifice, require the sacrifice of the born son to a family. That it made no sense to me at all. And so as these beliefs started getting more and more anchored within me, and as I am reading everything I can get my hands on, from hidden books of the Bible to goddess mythology to Egyptian mythology to everything that drew my interest, I followed. And so that's what I always encourage people to do, is follow the energy. Even if it seems weird, even if it makes no logical sense, just follow the energy and your spirit will take you where you need to go. And likewise, your spirit will also let you know when you're not on the right track. But only you know that. Only you have that inner compass and that inner knowing. Granted, if this is a new beginning for you or something you've only been doing for a few years, it is extremely helpful and almost a necessity to have a spiritual teacher, to have someone that you can trust who speaks truth that resonates for you, that can help you along the way, someone you can ask questions of, someone you can debate with and bounce ideas off of and see, what do you actually believe? And so a lot of people talk about, the Big Bang and God creating heaven and earth and all of this. And so this is such a wild jump, but I was outside in my yard one day when it was snowing and everything was white and quiet and gorgeous, like gorgeous. And I raised my hand to the heavens, and it's also to Mother Earth. And I just was saying, thank you. Look at this glory. Look at this miracle. Thank you. And it was so natural for me to want to give back for the beauty that was being bestowed upon me. It was so natural for me to appreciate and express that appreciation to that energy, to that unseen energy that is making all of this happen. And in that, I had like this realization that that is the natural ebb and flow of the universe, that it is only natural to value what is given to us and to express that, and also to receive it consciously. And everything in nature exists that way. Everything in nature is a symbiotic relationship, right? It's like the trees, transmute the carbon dioxide into oxygen that we can breathe. That's no accident. The rains come and they water the crops and nurture the fields. That's no accident. All the water on the planet eventually gets to the ocean. That's no accident. Everything gives and takes in a reciprocal manner. So what happened? And I realized in that moment, something interrupted that natural reciprocity for humans. And what I knew was that it was what I now call false codes that somehow infiltrated the minds of the people of Earth, that then took us out of alignment with that relationship, took us out of connection with nature. We are nature. How could we separate ourselves from nature? But we separate ourselves through our belief systems that we are somehow separate and not living nature itself. Because I do not believe that our source code would carry greed, lack, starvation, famine, cruelty, torture, murder, genocide, racism, misogyny, all of it, comparison, and finding ourselves less than. Like, to me, if we think of this like an operating system that we have going on in here and that's going on in the world, oh yeah, a virus got in and corrupted the original source file. That's what I came up with. And so I started identifying these false codes and how they serve to interrupt our connection with ourselves and with divine. And years before that happened, I had hit a really rough patch. This would have been 2008, and I decided to do a medicine ceremony for myself, by myself, at home. And I made myself some mushroom tea, and I smudged, and I called the directions, and I drummed, and I sang, and I said, show me what I need to know. And I went in my backyard, and I was laying in the grass, and I see this golden light sparkling down through the tree, and I call it my dragon tree because it looks like it has scales of a dragon, and I'm just like seeing all this beauty. And then suddenly I became aware that I was in the middle of the day in the backyard tripping balls, and that maybe I was being watched, and that I was like, I gotta run away, right? They took me to the nothing. In that journey, where I went, which at the time was the worst trip I had ever had, and I had never had a negative experience with psychedelics. They took me to the nothing, and when I say nothing, I mean no thing. I mean there were no words, so there was no way to define anything. There was no form, so there was no way to contain anything. There was no structure, so the ground underneath me was gone. Like, I was free falling, and not in a good way. Like, I wound up in the shower, like rocking back and forth and saying, it's gonna be okay. Your mama loves you, it's gonna be okay. And literally naming people that loved me and that I would be okay. It was awful. And I couldn't make it stop, and I couldn't get back to the something. Like, it was And it took me years to figure out the message of that journey.